That night, I learned that my own family was preparing to have me committed to a nursing institution in order to steal all I owned. When the doctor handed me a covert letter that said, "Don't go home, run," they were unaware of my secret, though, which would permanently alter their lives. I'm 70 years old, and my name is Martha Caldwell. I believed I had nurtured a devoted son for 45 years. My husband and I adopted Benjamin, an abandoned boy, when he was just 2 years old. I offered him everything I had, with all my love. Years of sacrifice, love, and study. Benjamin, his wife Eleanor, and my granddaughter Olivia were my only family after my spouse passed away 10 years ago. However, my world collapsed on Tuesday during what ought to have been a standard visit to the doctor. My longtime trusted doctor, Dr. Elliot Sterling, examined me as usual, but there was something strange about the way he behaved. As he took my blood pressure, his hands shook a little, and he avoided making eye contact. He said, "Everything looks good, Mrs. Caldwell," in a strained tone. I felt him come up behind me as I stood up to go, saying, "Your labs are perfect. Your heart is strong. You have many good years ahead of you." Dr. Sterling surreptitiously put a folded piece of paper into the bottom of my purse as I was reaching for it. I nearly missed it since he did it so fast. His smile was artificial. "Take good care, Mrs. Caldwell," he urged. I felt cold when he said, "And remember, family isn't always what it seems." My heart was racing as I left the office, but I chose not to read the message until I got home. What did he mean by that? Why had he given me that note so secretly? I asked myself. I had 1,000 ideas when I was in the taxi. It was the strangest thing Dr. Sterling had ever done. He had known my family since Benjamin was a youngster, and was a sober, businesslike man. Why would he now be sending me confidential messages? Eleanor, Olivia, and Benjamin were in the living room when I got to the house. The three of them were whispering to each other, but as they noticed me, they suddenly stopped talking. Eleanor swiftly hid the papers she was holding behind her back. Benjamin's smile stopped short of his eyes as he questioned, "How was your doctor's appointment, Mom?" The doctor stated, "I'm in perfect health," and I tried to sound normal in response. "Everything's fine, son." Benjamin and Eleanor exchanged a glance that was not missed. Why did they appear so let down? Were they expecting me to be declared ill by the doctor? Grandma Olivia responded, "That's great," but her voice sounded oddly icy. "It indicates that you still have a lot of time to have fun." During dinner that evening, I became aware of my family's peculiar behavior. Benjamin didn't say much to me. Olivia averted her eyes from mine while Eleanor spoke in single words. "You could use a knife to cut through the tension in the air. Is something wrong?" I inquired at any point. Benjamin said, "No, Mom, everything's fine," without hesitation. "We're simply worn out." I went to my room with a troubled heart after dinner. The doctor's note was beginning to make sense, and something was clearly happening. I pulled the paper out of my handbag and unfolded it with shaking hands. I was astounded by what I read. "Your family was here yesterday, Mrs. Caldwell. They want to place you in a nursing home. So Eleanor asked me about your mental health, and if I could attest that you require special care. They also inquired about your assets and inheritance. Stay away from home. Dr. Sterling, run." My hands started to shake violently. My own household. I raised my son with a lot of affection. I regarded my daughter-in-law as if she were my own child. My granddaughter was my constant object of adoration. All of a sudden, it made obvious. The whispers, the weird looks, the papers that were hidden. They weren't let down since I was doing well. The doctor's refusal to assist with their objectives infuriated them. That night, I was unable to sleep. I was shocked by every sound in the home. I listened while I lay awake, trying to figure out how I got here. I had given up everything for my family, so how could they be plotting against me now? I heard conversations in the kitchen at 2 in the morning. I rose quietly and slipped approached the door of my bedroom. Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia were speaking in low tones, but I could plainly hear them and could comprehend what they were saying. Eleanor complained irritably. The damn doctor wouldn't cooperate. I told him that the elderly woman was going insane, that she occasionally didn't recognize people, and that she left the gas on, but he insisted she was fine. "Calm down, my love," Benjamin said, "and we'll find another doctor, one who's willing to sign the necessary documents." "But what do we do with her in the interim?" Olivia inquired. "I have already reserved a position at the U.S. college. I need that money now, not when she passes away from old age in 5 years." "Don't talk like that, Olivia," Benjamin reprimanded, although he wasn't very firm. "But you have a point. We must move quickly." Eleanor concluded icily, "Look, I didn't join this family to take care of a senile old woman. The house is worth nearly $500,000, and with her pension and savings, we could live comfortably until she dies. I married you with the expectation that you would inherit shortly, but 10 years have passed and she is still using our money, our funds. I repeated in silence as my chest began to swell with wrath. They considered all of the money I earned from the effort of my late husband and I to be their own. I'm going to speak with the lawyer tomorrow, Benjamin added. Without a doctor, I'm going to ask if we can proclaim her incompetent. There must be a method. We can always make her life impossible until she decides to go to a nursing home herself, Eleanor continued, adding that if that didn't work, take away her TV, don't cook for her, treat her like what she is, a burden. Olivia responded, Mom, don't be so cruel. But then she added, though the truth is, I'm already tired of pretending to love her. She's always there, butting into our conversations, asking why we're out so late. It's insufferable. My legs began to tremble. I leaned against the wall, feeling my world crumbling around me. These were the people for whom I had worked 18 hours a day when Benjamin was little, for whom I had given up my dreams, my friendships, my own life. Remember my 15th birthday, Olivia continued. She bought me that horrible red dress and forced me to wear it. All my friends laughed at me. From that day on, I swore I'd get her back someday. And what bothers me the most, Eleanor added, is that she's always bragging about what a good mother she was, about all she sacrificed for Benjamin, as if she were a saint. But the truth is, she adopted him because she couldn't have her own kids. She used him to fill her emptiness. Enough already, Benjamin said, but his voice sounded tired, not indignant. Look, in a week I'm going to talk to her. I'll let her know that it would be better for her to be with people her own age, and that we have located a very excellent nursing home, and will employ Plan B if she declines. What is the backup plan? Olivia inquired. Benjamin said icily, we really drive her crazy. We change her prescription. We keep her belongings hidden. We accuse her of doing things that she didn't. Any physician will attest to her mental illness within a month. His comments struck me like a punch with their horror. They tried to ruin my sanity, my dignity, and my thoughts, in addition to robbing me. They sought to transform me into what they said I was already. Eleanor exclaimed, it's perfect, with excitement. And once she's committed, we'll have access to all her accounts. We can sell the house, collect her pension, and dispose of everything without anyone bothering us. Exactly, Benjamin said. The best aspect is that nobody will have any suspicions. From the outside, we appear to be the ideal family, caring for an ailing grandmother with love. They chuckled. As life they had cracked the greatest joke ever. The three of them burst out laughing. They made fun of me, my innocence, and my unwavering devotion to them. Something broke inside of me at that very instant. Since I read the doctor's note, my heart had already been broken, but not this time. My naive confidence in kindness, my conviction that family is precious, and my idea that love is always returned were what broke. Elena muttered, I'm going to make copies of all her cards first thing in the morning. Benjamin said, that way, we can spend a little at a time, without her noticing. Great, Benjamin said, and I'm going to go through all her papers. There has to be a will somewhere that we can modify. Modify how? Inquired Olivia. Benjamin smiled as he said, let's just say that Grandma, in her mental confusion, decided to leave everything to us because we're the only ones who care for her. Olivia praised her father, saying, but we have to be careful. What happens if someone has suspicions? Eleanor told her that no one would suspect anything, adding that aside from us, she has no family or friends. She is an elderly woman who is lonely and entirely reliant on us. Who will stand up for her? They were correct. I didn't have any close pals. When I threw myself fully into caring for Benjamin, I had lost contact with most of them. I didn't have any siblings. Years had passed since the deaths of my parents. I was totally exposed. I had a secret, though, which they were unaware of and had never cared to discover. A secret that would fundamentally alter the power dynamics here. My husband left me more than love and memories when he passed away. He bequeathed me an inheritance that I had concealed for years. In addition to 3 residences abroad where he had purchased his assets, he also had $2.2 million in an offshore bank account that only I knew about. I wanted to make sure Benjamin loved me for who I was, not for what I had, so I kept it a secret. I wanted him to be self-sufficient and create his own life. However, I now see that I was a fool. I had never been loved by him. All he had been doing was waiting for me to pass away so he could inherit what little he believed I had. Finally, Benjamin stated, I believe we are all clear. We implement the strategy tomorrow, and bear in mind that we must continue to be the devoted family we have always been in front of her. I heard their footsteps retreating toward their rooms, to which Ella Lanina responded, I'm an excellent actress. I can fake loving her for a little while longer. I remained motionless, gripping the doctor's note tightly. He was correct. Despite the fact that I had to run, I refused to run like a helpless victim. Like a woman who had just woken up from a 45-year-long dream, I was going to run. I was going to dash to organize the most ideal form of retaliation they could ever think of. I planned for the remainder of the evening. I felt fully awake for the first time in months, even though I hadn't slept for a minute. I knew I needed to move quickly and wisely. They would soon learn that they had woken up the incorrect woman, but they had underestimated the senile old lady. I quietly removed my smallest suitcase and packed just the necessities at 5 in the morning. When I was certain that everyone was asleep, personal records, a few outfit changes, my prescription drugs, and above all, the small notebook in which I had recorded every detail of my covert accounts. I made the decision to do something that will benefit me later on before I left. I pulled my phone out and turned on the voice recorder. I then made sure to pass close to Benjamin and Eleanor's room on my way back through the house, acting as though I had forgotten something. They were already up and talking in whispers about their plans for the day, just as I had anticipated. Benjamin described his appointment with the lawyer to inquire about the declaration of incapacity, while Eleanor was discussing the creation of copies of my cards. Eleanor worriedly inquired, Do you think she suspects anything? Impossible, said Benjamin. She's too old and trusting. Besides, what could she do? She has nowhere to go. She has no money of her own. She has no friends. We're all she has. It's pathetic, Eleanor added with contempt. A 70-year-old woman who is completely dependent on us. Sometimes I feel sorry for her, but then I remember, she chose this life. She could have remarried after her husband died, but she chose to stay here being the perfect grandmother. And now she's going to pay for that decision, Benjamin concluded coldly. Perfect. I had recorded enough material to sync them. After that, I put the phone away and finished getting ready to leave. I left a note on the kitchen table that said, Gone to run some errands. I'll be back later. Martha. I knew they wouldn't suspect a thing. After all, a senile old woman going on a strategic escape wasn't a possibility they had considered. I took a cab to the nearest bank. It was Wednesday morning, and I knew I had a few hours before my family would realize something was wrong. At the bank, I withdrew a considerable amount of cash and verified that my secret accounts were intact. The teller, a young woman named Patricia, looked at me with curiosity when I asked to withdraw $5,000 in cash. Are you sure, ma'am? That's a considerable amount to carry around in cash, she said with genuine concern. Completely sure, I replied firmly. I have some personal matters to take care of. After the bank, I took another cab to the most elegant hotel in the city. I knew I needed a place where I would feel safe while planning my next moves. The Grand Imperial Hotel was perfect, discreet, comfortable, and with services that would allow me to maintain my privacy. How long will you be staying with us? The receptionist, an elegant woman in her 40s, asked me. I'm not sure, I replied. It could be a week. It could be several months. It depends on how certain family matters unfold. She nodded with professional understanding and assigned me a suite on the 10th floor. As I went up in the elevator, I felt a mix of terror and excitement. For the first time in decades, I was making decisions just for myself. The suite was beautiful, spacious, with a view of the city, elegantly decorated, and equipped with everything I needed. I sat on the living room sofa, and for the first time since the night before, allowed my emotions to overwhelm me. I cried. I cried for the 45 years I had dedicated to raising a son who saw me as an obstacle. I cried for the humiliations I had endured without realizing it. I cried for the woman I had been before I became the perfect grandmother they despised. But after crying, I wiped away my tears and began to plan. I took out my notebook and started making a list of everything I needed to do. First, contact my financial advisors overseas to activate my accounts. Second, hire the best lawyer in the city. Third, find a private investigator who could help me document everything my family had done and was planning to do. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone started to ring. It was Benjamin. Mom, where are you? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you haven't come back. His voice sounded worried. but I could detect the irritation beneath the concern. "I'm fine, son," I replied calmly. "I decided to take a day for myself. It's been a long time since I did that." "A day for yourself? What does that mean? Where exactly are you now?" His voice was clearly annoyed. "I'm in the city taking care of some things I needed to do." I lied, partially. "Don't worry. I'll be back when I'm finished." "Mom, this isn't like you. You always let us know where you're going. Eleanor is worried, and so is Olivia. We need to know where you are." For the first time in years, I detected something in his voice that surprised me. Panic. He wasn't worried about my well-being. He was worried because he had lost control over me. "You know what, Benjamin? I'm 70 years old," I said with a surprising level of composure. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mom, you're frightening me. I believe I'm old enough to decide for myself where to go and what to do." "You sound different from who you are. Do you take your prescription drugs?" he asked. And in that question, I could hear the beginning of their strategy. He was already planting the seed that I was not mentally well. "I'm absolutely okay, son. I've never been better," I replied and hung up. I immediately turned off my phone. I knew they would call me obsessively, and I needed peace to do what I had to do. That afternoon, I hired the most prestigious law firm in the city. The head attorney, a man in his 50s named Dr. Graham Montgomery, received me personally when I mentioned the amount of money I was willing to pay for his services. "I need complete legal protection," I explained. "My family is trying to have me declared incompetent to take control of my assets, but I have recordings that prove it's a conspiracy." Dr. Montgomery listened carefully as I played the recordings I had made that morning. His expression grew more and more serious. "Mrs. Caldwell, this is very serious," he said finally. "What your family is planning constitutes elder abuse, conspiracy to make false statements. We could bring criminal charges against them." "That's precisely what I want," I retorted resolutely. "But I need to do it strategically." The smile of a man who has discovered a case he likes, Dr. Montgomery said, "I want them to pay, but I want it to be in the most agonizing way conceivable for them. Mrs. I'm going to put my best team on your case, Caldwell, but I need you to tell me everything first." "I think we're going to get along great," he continued. "Absolutely everything." I told him about adopting Benjamin, about my husband, about the years of sacrifice, about the secret inheritance, about everything. Dr. Montgomery took notes carefully. "Do you know exactly how much money you have in your secret accounts?" he asked me. $2.2 million in cash, plus 3 properties overseas that are worth approximately $1.5 million more, I replied. Dr. Montgomery stopped writing and looked at me with renewed respect. "Mrs. Caldwell, you are not just a victim of family abuse. You are a very powerful woman who has been underestimated by her family. We are going to use that power to teach them the lesson of their lives." For the first time in days, I smiled genuinely. The war had begun, but now I had the right weapons. That night, from the comfort of my hotel suite, I turned on my phone to check my messages. I had 37 missed calls from Benjamin, 15 from Eleanor, and 8 from Olivia. The text messages were becoming more and more desperate. "Mom, please answer. We are very worried, Martha. If you don't respond, we're going to call the police. Grandma, where are you? Dad says you're going to get into trouble." I decided to reply only to Benjamin. "I'm fine. Don't worry. I'll come back when I'm ready." The response came immediately. "Mom, this isn't normal. You need to come home now. Eleanor made your favorite dinner." His favorite dinner. As if after 45 years he didn't know that Eleanor had never cooked anything special for me. It was another lie, another manipulation. The next day, Dr. Graham Montgomery called me early. "Mrs. Caldwell, I have some interesting news. My private investigator has already started working on your case and has discovered something important. Your daughter-in-law, Eleanor, has been using your personal information to apply for credit cards in your name for the past 6 months." "What?" I exclaimed, feeling indignation grow in my chest. "She has 5 credit cards that you never authorized with an accumulated debt of $43,000. Purchases at luxury stores, expensive restaurants, even a trip to the Florida Keys last month," the lawyer explained. "But I never went to the Florida Keys," I said, confused. "No, ma'am, they went. Your family took a week-long vacation, using your money while they told you they were going to visit Elena's sick mother." The thought occurred to me like a punch. I had a vivid memory of that week. Eleanor had sobbed as she explained that her mother was critically ill and that they had to go take immediate care of her. In addition to the money they had already stolen via the fictitious credit cards, I had also provided them money for the trip. Montgomery, doctor, did your investigator find anything else? Fearing the response, I asked, 8 months ago, your son Benjamin lost his job, but he never told you. He has been subsisting on your pension and savings. Additionally, we learned that he has already gotten in touch with 3 distinct medical professionals in an attempt to locate one who is prepared to certify that you have senile dementia. Every revelation was a more profound jab. They had been robbing me for months in addition to having planned to do so. They had begun the process of declaring me mad, in addition to wanting to do so. And I said, my voice cracking, and my granddaughter, Olivia, Mrs. Caldwell, she has secrets too. She is lying to her parents about who the father is, even though she is 3 months pregnant. It appears that the genuine father is a 50-year-old married man who made a vow to divorce his wife, but now has no interest in learning anything about the child. I muttered, oh my God, the girl I had assisted in raising, my granddaughter, was embroiled in a scandal that may ruin her future. Dr. Montgomery added, there's more. For the past 2 years, Eleanor and your neighbor Dave have been having an affair. Photographs and videos from my investigator attest to this. Carol's spouse, Dave, thinking about the lovely woman who lived next door, I inquired. Yes, exactly. Benjamin thinks Eleanor is at her yoga class, but it turns out that she and Dave meet at a motel on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. It was cruelly ironic. Each of them was living a lie that made them far worse than I could have ever imagined, all the while plotting to ruin my life by calling me crazy. I told him, Dr. Montgomery, I want you to document all of this, with purpose. Every deception, theft, and treachery. I want them to have proof of everything when it's time to face them. Mrs. Caldwell, of course, but I have an idea. What do you think about letting them dig a bit deeper hole for themselves, rather than confronting them right away? I made the decision to do something I hadn't done in years that afternoon. Invest in new clothing. I purchased 3 stunning outfits from the city's most upscale shops, a striking red one, a sophisticated black one, and an emerald green one that gave me strength. In addition, I purchased new shoes, a real leather purse, and even had my hair done at the most upscale salon in the city. My hair was styled for 3 hours by a young woman named Sophia. She complimented me, "Ma'am, you have beautiful hair," as she was working. "How come you haven't given it any attention?" I answered honestly, since I had long believed that taking care of myself wasn't worth it. I believed that my role was limited to being the unseen granny who looks after everyone else. "Well," Sophia said firmly, "those days are over. You'll look like the queen you've always been after. I'm through with you." She was also correct. I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me when I looked in the mirror. My face was brightened by the highlights in my sleek, contemporary hairstyle. I appeared strong. While dining at the hotel restaurant that evening, I made the decision to give Benjamin a call. His voice was angry rather than concerned. "Mom, finally, where the heck have you been?" he said. Calmly, "Taking care of myself, son," I answered. "You know, I hadn't taken time for myself in years. It's been very revealing. Mom, this has to stop. You can't just disappear like this. We're your family. We have a right to know where you are." "A right?" I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Since when does my family have a right over me?" "Since you started acting erratically," he replied. And there he was again, trying to plant the seed that I was mentally unstable. Erratic. Does it seem erratic to you that a 70-year-old woman decides to take a few days for herself? Yes, when that woman has never done anything like that before. "Mom, I think you need to talk to a specialist. You're acting very strangely." "A specialist?" I asked, finding confusion. "What kind of specialist, Benjamin?" A psychologist, Mom. Someone who can help you with these behavioral changes." "Perfect." He was admitting his intentions on a call that I was recording. "You know what, son? You're right. I do need specialized help," I told him, and I could hear his sigh of relief on the other end of the line. "I'm glad you understand, Mom." "Yes, I understand perfectly. I need a specialist in family fraud, a specialist in elder abuse, and a specialist in psychological manipulation, because that's exactly what you all have been doing to me." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I know everything, Benjamin. I know about the fake credit cards Eleanor took out in my name. I know about your plan to have me declared incompetent. I know about the doctors you've contacted. I know everything." "Mom, that's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you really need medical help." "You know what else I know?" Benjamin, I know you lost your job 8 months ago and that you've been living off my money while lying to my face. I know about the trip to the Florida Keys that you paid for with my stolen money. I know many other things that are going to surprise you a lot when you see them in court. You're delirious, he said. But his voice no longer sounded sure. Delirious. Last night I heard you planning how to make me really go crazy by switching my medications. Is that a delusion? This time, the silence was even longer. Mom, come home. We can talk about this as a family. No, Benjamin, we are no longer family. A family doesn't betray you the way you betrayed me. A family doesn't plan the mental destruction of one of its members to steal their money. Mom, please, what I am going to do is give you one chance, just one chance, to confess everything, apologize genuinely, and return every penny you have stolen from me. If you do that, maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to forgive you. We have nothing to confess, he replied, but his voice was trembling. Then I'll see you in court, son. Have a good night. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in days I felt completely at peace. The war had been officially declared and I had all the weapons. The following days were an emotional roller coaster. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with desperate calls from my family. First, they tried the love tactic. Crying messages from Olivia saying how much she missed me. Broken voices from Ila Loner, asking for forgiveness for any misunderstandings. And pleas from Benjamin begging me to come home to clear things up. When that strategy didn't work, they switched to fear and intimidation. Benjamin left me a voice message that said, Mom, if you don't come back immediately, we're going to have to take legal measures to protect you from yourself. But Dr. Graham Montgomery had prepared me for this. Let them file the petition for guardianship. He told me during one of our meetings, because it will be the best evidence we could have of their true intentions. Your erratic behavior is forcing us to consider legal guardianship. In addition, 3 separate psychiatrists have already verified that you are in great mental health. My private investigator has been extremely busy in the interim. I got fresh reports every day that startled me more than I could have imagined. Mrs. Caldwell, he told me during our meeting on Friday, your family has dramatically accelerated their plans since you disappeared. Yesterday, Benjamin went to your bank trying to access your accounts, saying that you had suffered a psychotic episode and that he needed to temporarily handle your finances. And what did the bank tell him? I inquired. Thankfully, the bank manager is a highly competent individual. He informed Benjamin that in order to make any modifications to your accounts, he would want proper legal proof. They had to ask Benjamin to leave though, because he was so insistent. There's more. Eleanor has indeed been selling your possessions. I saw yesterday that she put a number of your antique furniture items up on an internet sales page. Additionally, she attempted to sell your jewelry collection to a pawn shop, but the appraiser turned her down as Eleanor was unable to provide proof of consent and the jewels clearly belonged to an elderly person. My heart was racing. My late husband gave me those gems, which were one-of-a-kind items he had accumulated over many years. I asked, my voice tight, and my granddaughter Olivia. She has been the most active of all. She's been telling her friends that you are suffering from advanced Alzheimer's, and that the family is considering having you committed. She has also been using this story to borrow money from several acquaintances, saying she needs funds to pay for her grandmother's medical care. Each revelation was more painful than the last. Not only were they stealing from me, they were destroying my reputation and using my supposed illness to manipulate other people. But here's the most interesting part, the investigator continued. Last night, the 3 of them had a meeting at your house with a man our sources identified as Paul Hayes, a document forger known in the city's criminal underworld. A forger? I asked, feeling my blood run cold. Apparently, they are planning to create fake medical documents that certify your mental incompetence. Paul Hayes specializes in creating fictitious medical histories and forging doctors' signatures. This was much worse than I had imagined. Not only did they want to steal from me, they were willing to commit multiple serious crimes to do so. Dr. Montgomery, I said over the phone that same afternoon, I think it's time to accelerate our plans. If we wait any longer, they're going to have fake documents that could complicate things. I agree, Mrs. Caldwell. Are you ready for Phase 2 of our plan? Phase 2 was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of confronting them directly, we were going to let them incriminate themselves publicly. On Monday morning, I got dressed in my new, elegant black dress, put on my best jewelry, and headed to the city's most prestigious real estate office. I had made an appointment to view luxury properties, specifically homes worth over $1 million. Mrs. Caldwell, the real estate agent, a dapper man named Rick, greeted me. It's a pleasure to meet you. I understand you're interested in acquiring a high value property. That's right, I replied with confidence. I'm looking for a house that reflects my new stage of life, something elegant, modern, with good security. Perfect. I have 3 properties that might interest you. What Rick didn't know was that my private investigator had coordinated everything perfectly. At 11 in the morning, exactly when we would be viewing the second property, Benjamin, Eleanor, and Olivia would coincidentally appear at the same real estate office. We were in the middle of a visit to a spectacular mansion when I heard familiar voices at the main entrance. "Excuse me," I said to Rick. "I think some acquaintances just arrived." When we went down to the main lobby, there were the 3 of them, dressed in their best clothes, talking to another real estate agent. "We're interested in selling a property," I heard Benjamin say. "It's my mother's house, but she's ill, and we have legal power of attorney to handle her affairs." "Power of attorney?" the agent asked. "Could you show me the documentation?" "Well, we're still processing the official papers," Elena replied nervously. "But it's just a matter of days. We want to get a head start on the appraisal process." "Hello, family," I said loudly from the stairs. The 3 of them turned around at the same time, and their faces of horror were worthy of a movie. Benjamin turned pale. Eleanor's mouth opened without making a sound, and Olivia literally took a step back. "Mom," Benjamin stammered. "What? Why are you here?" "The same thing you are, apparently," I replied calmly as I walked down the stairs. "Although I'm buying, not selling." Rick, my real estate agent, approached with a professional smile. "Do you know these people, Mrs. Caldwell?" "Unfortunately, yes," I replied. "This is my family, or at least that's what I thought until recently." "Mom, we need to talk," Benjamin said, trying to sound authoritative, but failing miserably. "About what, Benjamin?" "About how you were planning to sell my house without my authorization, about the fake documents you're processing, or about the power of attorney you just mentioned that doesn't exist." The other real estate agent looked confused and clearly uncomfortable. "Excuse me," he interrupted, "but if there is a legal conflict over the property, we cannot proceed with any appraisal until it is resolved." "There's no conflict," Eleanor said desperately. "It's just that she hasn't been right in the head lately." "I'm not right in the head," I repeated loudly, making sure everyone in the office could hear. "Is that why I'm here, buying $1.5 million house with my own money?" Rick's jaw dropped. $1.5 million, Olivia whispered. "Oh yes, dear granddaughter," I said with a sweet smile. "It turns out your senile grandmother has a lot more money than you thought." I took out my phone and dialed Dr. Montgomery's number. "Dr. Ahmet Richardson Associates, really. My family is here trying to sell my property without authorization, and claiming they have power of attorney over my affairs. Could you send someone from your office to document this situation?" "Of course, Mrs. Caldwell. Someone will be there in 15 minutes. I hung up and looked at my family with a calmness that surprised me. "Now, we're going to wait for my lawyers to arrive," I announced. "And they're going to explain to everyone here exactly what legal documents you have, how you obtain them, and why you believe you have the right to sell my property." Benjamin tried to approach me. "Mom, this is a misunderstanding. We can solve it at home." "No," I said firmly, taking a step back. Eleanor started crying, but it was panicked tears rather than sad ones. "There is nothing left to solve at home. I no longer have a home, at least not with you in it. Please, Martha, we are related. All of our actions have been for your benefit, for my own benefit." I raised my voice and asked. "I used fictitious credit cards to steal my money for my own benefit. I intended to falsify medical records for my personal benefit. For my personal benefit, I hired a criminal to fabricate my medical background." In the real estate office lobby, every charge seemed like a bomb. I could see the looks of disdain and terror on the faces of the other customers and staff members who had paused to listen. "We have no idea what you're discussing." Desperate, Olivia lied. "You don't." I pulled out my phone and listened to one of my recordings. The room echoed with Benjamin's voice. "We drive her completely insane. We change her prescription. We keep her belongings hidden. We accuse her of doing things that she didn't. Any physician will attest to her mental illness within a month." It was very quiet at the real estate agency. I could see the disgust and fury on the faces of the staff and customers. Eleanor cried out in a panic, "That recording is illegal." "Not in this state," I quietly said, "and most definitely not when it's being recorded to stop a planned crime." Just then, a public notary and 2 attorneys from Dr. Montgomery's business showed up. "We're from Montgomery and Associates, Mrs. Caldwell," We are aware that some individuals assert that they are legally in charge of your affairs. That's correct, I said. Please formally record that these 3 individuals have no legal jurisdiction over me, my assets, or my money, and that any effort to do so is fraudulent. Benjamin was addressed by one of the attorneys. Could you please provide me with the records proving your right to sell Mrs. Caldwell's property, sir? Like a fish out of water, Benjamin's mouth opened and closed. I stated that they lack documentation because they lack authority, which is what we are already doing. They do, however, have a criminal scheme to take everything I own. The humiliation in front of the public at the real estate office was only the start. My family alternately yelled and begged as they followed me out of the building and onto the street. Hold on, Mom, Benjamin yelled. Can't we make this right? Everything has been a horrible miscommunication. Olivia pleaded. Grandma, please. Eleanor, on the other hand, had totally altered her approach. I love you. You can't do this to us. She no longer pretended to care or to love. She yelled, "You're a bitter old woman," as I climbed into my taxi. The best years of his life. I turned to face her from the cab window. You've used us all these years. Benjamin gave you the best years of his life, and this is how you repay him. With bitterness in her voice, Elalina retorted, "Do you mean the years I worked 18 hours a day to support him? The years I gave up my career, my friends, and my social life to raise him? Those years you chose to adopt him," I said with deadly composure. "I don't pretend you owe me gratitude. No one forced you, and now you pretend we owe you eternal gratitude." I urged the cabbie to start the car, leaving my family yelling on the curb. "I just pretend that you don't steal from me, that you don't betray me, and that you don't plan to drive me crazy to get my money." Apparently, that was too much to ask. I was called into Dr. Montgomery's office for an urgent meeting that afternoon. His smile was unlike anything I had ever seen. "Mrs. Caldwell, I have extraordinary news," he began. In their desperation, Benjamin went straight to Paul Hayes, a document forger, and paid him $50,000 in advance to expedite the construction of your fictitious medical certificates. Your family made a critical mistake after the incident at the real estate office. What kind of mistake? $50,000. How could they have made so much money? From the credit cards that were deducted from your account. Eleanor reportedly sold her automobile as well. The best part, though, comes after. Paul Hayes is an informant for the FBI. For the past 6 months, he has been working with the authorities to break up a document fraud organization. I was momentarily silent. You mean that your family is currently being probed by the federal government for conspiracy to commit medical document fraud? In addition to familial fraud, audio and video recordings of the entire transaction are in the possession of the FBI. I made the decision to do something I had been putting off that evening while I was in my hotel suite. Address each member of my family separately, without going face to. I was thinking of something even more potent. I turned on my laptop and registered on the most widely used live streaming service in the nation. My headline was straightforward but impactful. A grandmother speaks candidly about her family. I began my first live stream at 8 o'clock at night. I was surprised to see how quickly the number of watchers increased from the initial 3. "Good night." I started staring at the camera. "My name is Caldwell, Martha. Tonight, at the age of 70, I will share a story with you that will alter your perspective on ideal families." I had more than 500 watchers in 20 minutes. There were more than 3,000 by the end of the hour. I told them everything, including the plans to drive me insane, the bogus credit cards, Benjamin's adoption, and the covert note from Dr. Sterling. I presented the materials I had gathered, played the tapes, and went into great detail about each betrayal. The live comments were quite encouraging. "What a terrible family. What a warrior you are, Mrs. Caldwell. Bring a lawsuit against them. Make them pay for everything. My grandmother experienced the same situation. I appreciate your courage." However, it was when I got a live call in the middle of my stream that everything really shifted. Olivia was the one. "Please, Grandma, shut off that stream," she begged. "Our lives are being ruined by you." "Am I destroying your lives?" I said it again for everyone to hear. "You all wrecked mine first, don't you? Everyone is watching us. Grandma, my teachers, my friends, and the entire school. I am unable to leave the house at all. And how would I feel, in your opinion, if you took all of my money, put me in a nursing home against my choice, and deemed me mentally incompetent? That would never take place. We were merely considering our alternatives, examining possibilities." For the first time in days, I let out a shout, abandoning the poise I had been maintaining. "I've been raising you since you were a baby, Olivia. Your diapers were changed by me. You went to school with me. When you were ill, I looked after you. And when your parents plotted to ruin me, you were there grinning. The live comments exploded, but the stillness on the other end of the line was deafening. Be honest with her. This girl has no shame. Don't let her control you, Mrs. Caldwell. At last, Olivia whispered in a weak voice, Grandma, in addition to other expenses, I need money for college. Did you think, Olivia, what did you think? You believed that I was your private bank. You believed that by working together, you could make me insane and then use my money to finance your education. That isn't the case. How is it then? Tell the 4,000 individuals who are currently watching us about it. Tell them why, even though I was doing well, you informed your friends that you needed to borrow money to cover my medical expenses. Another quiet, then hardly perceptible. How are you aware of that? Because I'm not the snobbish old lady you believe me to be. Olivia, I am fully aware of everything, including personal details your parents are unaware of. What? There are more things that could destroy your future than this stream. She ended the call right away, but the harm had already been done. 5 minutes after my granddaughter's tacit admission to the audience that she was aware of the plot against me, my phone rang once more. It was Benjamin this time, and he sounded utterly incensed. He bellowed, Mom, shut off that stream now. Hello, Benjamin, I remarked in a kind manner. Do you want to talk to the 5,000 people who are watching us? This is defamation. I'm going to sue you for slander. Is it slander to play audio recordings where you all plan to drive me crazy? Is it slander to show bank statements that prove you've been stealing from me for months? Those recordings are illegal. Not in this state, son, and definitely not when they're made to prevent a crime. But tell me, do you want to explain to all these viewers why you paid a document forger $50,000 yesterday afternoon? The silence was so long, I thought he had hung up. How do you know that? Because Paul Hayes is an FBI informant. Benjamin, congratulations. Now you're not only being investigated for family fraud, but for federal conspiracy. You're lying. Want to bet? Check the news tomorrow morning. Or, better yet, wait for the federal agents to knock on your door. The live comments went wild. FBI, FBI, FBI. This family is going to jail. Mrs. Caldwell is a detective. Justice for Grandma. Mom, Benjamin said in a broken voice, completely different from his fury before. Please stop this. We can still fix it. We're family, aren't we, Benjamin? I replied with genuine sadness. A family doesn't betray. A family doesn't steal. A family doesn't plan the mental destruction of one of its members. What you are is not a family. It's a criminal organization that shares a last name. We gave you 45 years of our lives. You didn't give me 45 years. I gave you 45 years of my life. I gave up everything for you. And you were just waiting for me to die to inherit what you thought I had. We need that money, Mom. We have debts, problems, and that's why you decided to drive me crazy. That's why you decided to steal from me. That's why you decided to destroy the last years of my life. It wasn't personal. Those 3 words hung in the air like a death sentence. It wasn't personal. 45 years of love, sacrifice, and dedication. And to him, it wasn't personal. You're right, Benjamin, I said finally. It wasn't personal for you all, and from now on, it won't be personal for me either. I'll see you in court. I hung up and looked at the camera. And that, dear viewers, was my family, I said with a sad smile. Tomorrow, I'll continue with this story. Good night. I ended the stream with over 7,000 viewers and hundreds of messages of support. For the first time in weeks, I went to sleep feeling that I was not alone in this battle. The next morning, I woke up with my phone exploding with notifications. My live stream had gone viral. I had thousands of messages of support, hundreds of interview requests from media outlets, and surprisingly, dozens of messages from other older people who had gone through similar situations. Mrs. Caldwell, one message said, my son did the exact same thing. I appreciate your courage in sharing your tale. I'm a lawyer who focuses on elder abuse, another person added, and you've motivated me to act. You have a textbook case. If you require further assistance, I'm available to you at no cost. But the message that impacted me the most was from a woman named Carol Sterling. Mrs. Caldwell, I'm a social worker. Just yesterday, I prevented a family from having their 5-year-old father committed after seeing your stream. Your courage is saving other grandparents. Dr. Montgomery called me at 9 in the morning. Madame, with a smile I had never seen before, he said, Caldwell, I have news that will change everything. Paul Hayes was caught by the FBI last night, and during his interrogation, he admitted everything about the deal with your family. Everything. Not only did he admit that Benjamin paid him to forge medical documents, but he also revealed that your family asked him to create a fake will in your name, leaving everything to them and declaring that you were mentally incompetent when you signed it. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. A fake will. Apparently, the plan was much more elaborate than we thought. They were going to use the fake medical documents to have you committed. Then they would present the forged will, and finally wait for you to die in the nursing home to legally inherit everything. My God, I whispered. How long had they been planning this? According to Paul Hayes, Eleanor first contacted him 4 months ago. This was not a desperate last-minute decision. It was a calculated and premeditated conspiracy. That afternoon, while I was processing this new information in my hotel suite, I received an unexpected call. It was Olivia, and for the first time in weeks, her voice sounded genuinely broken. "Grandma, can we please talk? Just you and me." "What for, Olivia? For you to lie to me again? For you to try to manipulate me emotionally?" "No, Grandma, to tell you the truth, the whole truth. I can't take this anymore." Something in her voice made me hesitate. I decided to take a risk. "Okay, but it will be in a public place with witnesses, and I'm going to record the entire conversation. Whatever you want, just please." We met at the cafe in the hotel lobby. Olivia arrived with eyes swollen from crying, dressed carelessly, very different from the vain girl I knew. "Grandma," she began before I could say anything, "you have to know that I never wanted things to go this far." "How far, Olivia? How far did you think was acceptable?" "At first, Mom and Dad just talked about convincing you to move to a luxury nursing home. They said it would be better for you, that you would have the company of people your own age. And what did you think?" "I thought maybe they were right. The house is very big for you alone, and sometimes you seemed lonely." She stopped and looked me in the eyes. "But that was before I knew about the money." "What money?" "They didn't know about my secret accounts." "No, but they knew about your pension, about the savings you had in the local bank, about the value of the house. Mom had been investigating for months, going through your papers when you weren't home. She would call your bank, pretending to be you. She even went to see your old boss to ask about your retirement pension." Each revelation was a deeper stab, and when they decided it wasn't enough to just convince me, Olivia began to cry. "When Mom found out that you could live another 20 years, she said she couldn't wait that long, that she needed the money now." "What did she need the money for so urgently?" "To pay Dad's debts. He lost a lot of money on sports betting over the past 2 years. He owes over $100,000 to some very dangerous people." Another shocking revelation. Benjamin had not only lost his job, he was a compulsive gambler with dangerous debts. "And what part did you play in all of this?" "I needed money for college and for other things." She unconsciously touched her belly. "Other things like what, Olivia?" "I'm pregnant, Grandma," she confessed finally. "The father is. He's a married man who doesn't want to know anything about the baby. I need money to decide what to do." My heart broke for my granddaughter, but I also felt a deep rage. "And that's why you decided to participate in a plan to drive me crazy." "I didn't know they wanted to drive you crazy," she shouted, attracting glances from other cafe customers. "I just thought they wanted a doctor to say you needed special care." "What's the difference, Olivia?" "I'm not sure. I suppose there is no distinction." For several minutes, she sobbed in private. "Everything went apart when you left the house, Grandma. All the parents do is quarrel. Mom claims that Dad's gambling is solely to blame. Dad blames Mom's overambition for everything. I'm in the middle, scared and pregnant. What do you want from me now?" "I sincerely hope you will pardon me and understand that I will be honest if I testify against your parents. Everything that I've seen, heard, and learned." I said nothing while I considered this surprising offer. "Olivia, why would you switch sides now?" "Because Dad warned me last night that if everything doesn't work out, they'll claim that I came up with the plan to steal your jewelry. They will claim that because I needed the money for drugs, I tricked them into doing it." "Substances, Grandma, I don't use drugs." "However, Dad claims that blaming the disobedient kid is more convincing than acknowledging that they were the ones who organized everything. The ultimate betrayal. In addition to betraying me, they were now prepared to betray their own daughter in order to protect themselves." "Do you have evidence to support your claims?" Olivia pulled out her phone. "I have tapes of every altercation they've had since you left. They intend to blame me in my text messages. I have footage showing your mother counting the proceeds from the sale of your jewelry. You recorded all of that." But why? Because I came to the realization a week ago that they will also desert me when this is all over. I am not of legal age. I'm expecting a child, and I'm broke. They will require a scapegoat, and I will be the scapegoat for that. I stared at her, trying to figure out if I was finally getting the truth, or if this was just another ruse. Olivia, your life will never be the same if you choose to testify against your parents. You will no longer have any relationship with them. Grandma, my relationship with them is already finished. From the time they chose to sacrifice me in order to save themselves after deciding to use me as part of their scheme against you. In return for your testimony, what do you want? Please assist me in completing my high school education. I want you to assist me in making the best choice possible regarding my pregnancy. Additionally, I would like you to show me how to be as powerful a woman as you are. I sensed a glimmer of the connection I once shared with my granddaughter for the first time in weeks. Olivia, I will help you with more than just your circumstances in high school if you do this and assist me in obtaining justice. I have something far more important to teach you. I'm going to teach you that true family is characterized by loyalty, respect, and sincere love rather than blood. Additionally, even if you share a last name, there are situations when avoiding toxic people is necessary for your own protection. Olivia reached across the table and held out her hand. Grandma, deal. Knowing that this would be the beginning of the end for Benjamin and Ellie Lanner, I shook her hand. My girl, deal. However, you are now my ally, and allies look out for one another. Are you prepared to take on that duty? I've never been more prepared for anything in my life. The trial day arrived sooner than I had anticipated. In just 3 weeks, Dr. Montgomery had established a strong enough case that even my family's high-priced attorneys suggested that they enter a guilty plea in order to negotiate a reduced sentence. Eleanor and Benjamin, however, declined, persuaded they could sway the jury with the portrayal of the devoted family tending to the bewildered grandmother. They sought to proceed with the matter to trial. On the day of the trial, Olivia, who had made the decision to stay with me at the hotel for the legal proceedings, accompanied me to the courthouse in my finest black suit. As we ascended the courthouse stairs, she asked me, "Are you nervous, Grandma?" "No, my girl," I quietly said. "I'm calm." The truth eventually comes to light. The courtroom was full. After my live streams were carried by multiple outlets, my tale became national news. Dozens of elderly people had gathered to offer their support, along with cameras and journalists. I hardly recognized Eleanor and Benjamin when I saw them at the defense table. Benjamin had black circles under his eyes and had lost weight. Eleanor appeared thin and anxious. They had suffered from the stress of knowing they would be imprisoned for years. The case was expertly presented by the prosecutor. Where they intended to drive me insane, he played the audio recordings. He produced proof of fraudulent credit card transactions. After outlining the plot, including the document forger, he ultimately produced evidence of the fake mortgage on my home. The time Olivia testified as a prosecution witness, however, was the most startling. "Miss Caldwell," the prosecution said, "can you tell us what you heard when your parents discussed their plans for your grandmother?" Olivia described every exchange, every scheme, and every betrayal in a firm, unambiguous voice. She explained how they had estimated the amount of money they would receive from my death, how they had agreed to blame her if everything went wrong, and how they had planned to change my prescription. There was an overwhelming quiet in the courtroom as she concluded her testimony. I observed a number of jurors dabbing at their eyes. The defense lawyer aggressively questioned, "Ms., isn't it true that you're pregnant and need money?" In an attempt to undermine Olivia by implying that she was lying to me in order to obtain money, Olivia responded dignifiedly, "Yes, I am pregnant, and I do require assistance, but I am not lying to obtain it, because it's the moral thing to do. I'm speaking the truth. Isn't it convenient that your grandma offered to provide you with financial support in return for your testimony?" Olivia forcefully said, "My grandma promised me support because I finally had the confidence to do the right thing, not money, in exchange for my testimony." The prosecutor, Mrs. Caldwell, asked me, "Can you tell us how you felt when you discovered your family's plans?" I entered the stand when it was my turn to speak, feeling the weight of all the eyes in the courtroom on me. "They didn't just betray me," I said. "I felt like I had lived a lie for 45 years. They caused me to reevaluate every instance of love I believed I had with them. They caused me to question whether I was ever more than a barrier separating them and my money." I asked, "And how do you feel now?" "Now I feel free," I added, turning to face Benjamin. The defense lawyer attempted to portray me as a vindictive, affluent lady who was exaggerating the circumstances, saying, "Free from the lies, free from the manipulation, and free from the obligation to love people who never truly loved me." Mrs. Caldwell, isn't it true that you have millions of dollars that you never mentioned to your family? It's true that I have resources they were unaware of, I admitted, but those resources do not justify conspiring to drive me crazy, stealing my identity, or forging legal documents. Don't you think your family deserved to know about that money? Deserved. Why? For planning my forced commitment, for stealing from me for months, for betraying me in the cruelest way possible. The trial lasted 5 days. In the end, the jury deliberated for just 2 hours before returning with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. Benjamin was sentenced to 12 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, forgery of documents, and elder abuse. Elilana received 10 years for the same charges, plus additional charges for mortgage fraud. When the judge read the sentences, Eleanor broke down crying. Benjamin simply stared ahead with an empty expression. After the trial, as we were leaving the courthouse, a reporter asked me, "Mrs., do you think justice was done, Caldwell?" "I feel that legal justice was served," I replied, "but the real justice was discovering who I truly was before it was too late to enjoy the rest of my life." 6 months later, I bought a beautiful house on the outskirts of the city. It's smaller than my old house, but it's full of light and has a lovely garden where Olivia and I spend our afternoons. Olivia finished high school with honors and decided to keep the baby. She is now studying law, inspired by everything we went through together. She says she wants to specialize in elder protection. "Grandma," she told me a few weeks ago as we worked in the garden, "do you ever regret adopting Dad?" "I don't regret adopting him," I replied, caressing the flowers we had planted together. "I only regret not having understood sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction." And what did you learn from all of this? I learned that real family is not defined by blood or shared years. It is defined by mutual respect, genuine loyalty, and unconditional love. I learned that it is better to be alone with dignity than to be accompanied by betrayal. And I learned that it is never too late to start over. Now, at 71 years old, I am living the fullest life I have ever had. I travel, I read, I have new friends, and above all, I have a genuine relationship with my granddaughter, who has become the daughter of my heart that I always wanted to have. Benjamin and Elilana have tried to contact me from prison several times, but their letters go directly to the trash, unopened. Some doors, once closed, should never be opened again. Every night before I go to sleep, I am thankful for 3 things. For Dr. Sterling, who had the courage to warn me, for my own strength that I didn't know I had, and for discovering that endings can also be beginnings if you have the courage to write your own story. Kindness is still important in my life, but now I practice it with wisdom. I help other older people who are facing similar situations. I support Olivia in her studies, and I have created a foundation to prevent elder abuse. But more important than all that, I finally learned to love myself as much as I loved everyone else my whole life. And that, my dears, is the most valuable lesson of